Never mind the teacher's table round has turned square as hell. October and the soccer fields green as Ireland as she kneels in the cross-country trail that circles the campus like a chastity belt and plucks the most miraculous maple leaf from sunset stacks of the fallen. Teachers get a bad start, they really do. That's a wonderful point. Well, I don't know how much brilliant chatter I had, but if you want dumb chatter, I'm your guy. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Malvern Books. And thank you to Taylor, who gave me excellent directions today. I never got lost, although I did get caught in UP traffic. So it was an interesting day, to say the least. There's a young Southern poet named Kevin Moe. I think he lives in Dallas now. I think he's teaching at Southern Methodist. I think that's the name of the school there. And in fact, his book is here. It's called Gust. And it's a wonderful book. It's an absolutely amazing book. And I'm going to be reading with him in Arkansas in the spring. So I thought I would read this poem with that in mind. I'll start this way. This is called, by the way, this is also probably as much autobiography as you will get tonight. This is called A Quick Meditation on Decay. I want to believe in dust, mummifying shelves, and in the spider webs strung beam to beam across the mausoleum of a barn. I want to believe in rotting leaves, in the wings of butterflies eroded away by a tender wind. I want to believe in compost heaps, attend their scented mass, pray to the peelings of apples and carrots, to coffee grounds, eggshells, noodles, grits, and rancid cheese. I want to believe in nothingness the way I believe nothing is worth believing in. I want to believe in all slow burnings, those consumptions of a world wallowing in logic, that other nothing we bow before, that temple built on fissuring cinder blocks of syllogism, that stopgap, that last stand of the crumbling self. So that's for Kevin Moe. Well, I was thinking, I'm living in upstate New York, and I was thinking, how can you be political without being political, without being specifically political? I don't care if I ever hear the word Trump again. Most New Yorkers don't, to be perfectly honest with you. I guess everybody's depressed about this election, no matter which side of the political divide you're on. So I was thinking, well, how do I address this in a very general way? And then I got to thinking about hope and hopelessness. And so this is the poem I chose to address that, and then that's enough of politics for tonight for me. This is called the word hoodoo. I love that word. The word hoodoo. Only one letter change, and then it's voodoo. Any idiot can see/hear that, but meaning, that's a different linguistic course. Once, a friend of mine used it in a poem, specifically hoodoo of hope. A crushing line, to be sure, its meaning clearer than a snow-capped mountain on a sunny day, the bullshit, suckering, useless exercise of hopelessness. Put otherwise, the hooey of hope. And yet, there is that real dactylic connection to the word voodoo, charming us into a momentary sense that there's more in heaven and earth that might not meet the eye, but does the ear. Hoodoo, voodoo. There's something magical about the word, something smacking of spells and incantations, like a sunset, like a hand ecstatic in the sweaty grip of yours, like hope. I think it's a good thing to think about. One evening, Charlie Parker stood on a country road, and like a wolf lifting its muzzle, raised his sax to the night sky and blew a tune so God Almighty hot, the cow to which he played spat out its cud and tore the pasture up, doing the bovine body. Now, audience suggestion, audience choice. Would you rather have a poem about a New England mouse, a poem about Jabberwocky, or a poem about the Wax Museum of the Miserable? Which is most intriguing to you?
All three.
You would say that. Come on, help. Which would you prefer?
I'm with Barbara.
Dealer's choice.
Pardon me?
Dealer's choice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll start with the mouse. The Frost Place in Franconia, New Hampshire, I've been associated with that since about 1984. I've been a guest poet there a couple times, but I started as a participant. I just applied in workshops, they have readings. Well, it's a beautiful area, Franconia Notch, the White Mountains in northern New Hampshire. And Frost's Place is this, it is what it is. It's a big white house with a huge porch on the front. And there's the barn, it's the original barn, although they've done, of course, a lot of renovation. And that's where all the readings occur. Well, back in the 90s, which is what this poem refers to, they had a little mounted stage, a wooden podium with a mic. You get there and there's beams. These are all timber beams running in back. Well, every night a poet would start to read and we were all waiting. All of a sudden, along one of the beams, this mouse would appear. And the mouse would simply sit there and you swear to God he was digging the poetry, right? Everybody, all week, everybody was looking forward to that mouse. I think they were looking forward more to the mouse than the poets. So that's what this poem is all about. This is called To Another Wee Mouse, the Frost Place. Each night we watch for you to appear, the mouse kingdom's version of Hamlet's ghost dashing up and down the ramparts of a rafter beam, while below you a parade of Hamlet's chafe and groan at the sting of an outrageous rhyme, a line delivered right off cue, a word dropped like a pun. And you never disappoint. As if you have a clock inside that tiny mind, you're always right on time, doing what mice must do, soliloquizing to an inner beat. Mouse, what are you doing here in this place? Is it poetry you like? Or are you lost like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern? The singer who invented you, that other Robert, lived across the ocean long ago, not in this New England barn. That one wore bright plaid kilts. This one, dull coveralls and shirts. What's wrong with you? Do you believe that man and nature have recouped, joined forces once again? The best laid plans indeed. Take our advice. The plow is still a plow, only bigger than the one that evicted you. So, mouse, stay if you wish, but do not look for pipes and Highland lassies in red smocks. If here is where you'd be, then you must carry drums in those tiny feet and fifes in that quick squeak. And please, only rough-shod feet will do, the smart spondee, not the smooth iambics you are given to. There's your mouse. Kids like that. Children like that. This is I'm going to go ahead and read this. This is a brand new poem. It came about because of a musician friend of mine back home. He's working on turning one of my poems into a song right now. And he wrote a thing called the Jabberwock Express, which I really loved, so I stole it. I told him I was going to steal it. He okayed it. So this is called Ballad of the Jabberwock Express. They're like a chorus in my head that keeps me awake at night, each voice a jub-jub bird or a bandersnatch, all mimsy on the Jabberwock Express. Oh, why, they shriek, do I only have a track phone, laptop, desktop? Why not a smartphone, too? Why do I not text them back? Why no Skype? To begin with, I don't, as epitaph want, here lies beside it one mome raff whose smartphone was getting smarter while he was getting dumb and daft. But alas, that isn't good enough. Well then, I say, I don't need it or you. Oh, snicker snack, they chortle, calloo, calais, the slithy tove, let's run him through. How, they ask, could I not need one in the tulgey wood, when even kids with the slowest thumbs in the West are packing them like vorpal swords? From the eyes of flame they cast my way, I know they'd stone me if they could, the stoning of such as me in frumious times, something they officially file as good. So how, I ask, does a village gyre and gimble that stones itself to death? They don't, they burble, really know, but all they have to do is Google it. They're like a chorus in my head that keeps me awake at night. Each voice, a jub-jub bird or a bandersnatch, all mimsy on the Jabberwock Express. That was the Jabberwock Express. That's fun. I'm going to let that one lie because there's other things I want to read here. Well, y'all, I am from Mississippi, actually. I live in New York. I've been living up there most of my life, but I go home every year to keep my roots intact. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Biscuits and gravy and all the good things. All those greens just waiting. People know how to make them, too. Anyway, this is a poem that's in the book. This is called Possum. This is about a stepdaddy of mine. Had a profound impact on my life, you might say, along with a couple others. My mother was married about 6 times, so twice to my father. So I've had an interesting life. This is called Possum. Gus grinned. "Watch this," he said, and walked up to the possum where it lay beneath the cypress playing dead. Once, twice, 3 times he slammed the butt of his shotgun against the possum's skull. The possum pissed. "Now watch," Gus said. He turned his back to the possum, then walked away. 9 paces, 10, and up the possum hopped, and off it waddled straight into the swamp. Gus turned and shot the possum dead. The echo rolled across the swamp. "You see," Gus said, "the critter has a head as hard as Daddy's liquor used to be." The possum twitched. Gus grinned. Again, he raised his shotgun high and brought the butt down hard against the possum's head. The head erupted blood. "Goddamn antiques," Gus spat. "I know," I said. I mentioned Gus, the great Alan Rounderville. He doesn't know about this. I stole it, the line from this wonderful line he has in one of his poems. And I wrote this little poem. This is called, "Lord, make me a flying squirrel or a flying holy roller." Is that wonderful? It's a great line. Anyway, "Good God, girl, I know what you'd do if you was a holy roller. Get so close to Jesus you'd inhale his unscented, non-deodorant sweat. And if you was a flying holy roller, you would no doubt strafe the heavenly veil, suck in that mind sweet as honeysuckle, and then KO them unborns harder than God's knuckle. But a flying squirrel, oh, Sister Lily, I know for a fact, as sure as I know your mama's first name's Willie, not Sue, the first thing you would do is swoop in on that slut, begonia Nick, and spit in her blue eye, just for the hell of it." I don't know how he's going to react when he hears it. He might run me out of town trying to test with me. Okay. How am I doing for time? Have I got time for 1 or 2 more? Anybody know? I don't want to... Jumping jacks or anything, you know, stretches. Okay. I think I'll end with that. Music came up tonight, so here's a, well, it's not probably what you might think of as music. It's about music and sort of autobiographical. This is called "Why I'm Sad About the Death of Paul Revere," 1938-2014. You know, Paul Revere and the Raiders, that Paul Revere. Remember them? I do. So it's circa 1962. It's the fall of 1962, and I'm at Oregon State University. I'm about 18, 19-year-old freshman. And this is about my first sexual contact. why I'm sad about the death of Paul Revere. Not knowing him, I couldn't hate him, but I could his music. That damned Louie Louie, every AM station on the West Coast seemed to be playing every other song. Louie, Louie, Louie! Why then, when I hear on the evening news that he's dead, am I left so shaken, so sad? As always, it has to do with a girl with big boobs who sat next to me in Mr. Ludwig's freshman English 1. Not across the sea in Jamaica, along 3 days away by ship, but in Oregon. Her name? Susie, or Michelle, or Mary Lou. I don't remember a moon that night, and there were no roses in her hair, but there we were, the girl with big boobs I lusted for constantly and dated once. There we were, parked in my '50 Chevy in the college parking lot, where, while I was feeling her up, we were rocking to, who else? Paul Revere and the Raiders, both of us bouncing up and down to, what else? Louie Louie, that soundtrack of my first real sex, on one October night under Oregon stars, with the first girl whose boobs I laid hands on, which is why I'm sad. Not just because Paul Revere is dead, but because that was the once and only sweetly innocent encounter I could ever have. There in my gray Chevy with the girl from freshman English 1 under me and Louie Louie booming out across a parking lot, not yet paved over. Maybe that's more of a biography than I should give. Okay, I want to end with this. Paul Ruffin, of course you know, I guess most of you know, he died last April, the editor of Texas Review Press. Well, my sister died in July, so that was the next shock. Then the third shock, about 2 weeks before I flew out, Claude Woolley, he's office manager for the press. He's also, by the way, a very fine country singer-songwriter. He sent me his CD, and he's just wonderful. But about 2 weeks ago, his wife's name is Deanna. I read it on Texas Review Facebook, so it was quite a shock. Their son, it's his stepson, her son, Bo, they called him. He was 33 years old, and he was killed in a car wreck 2 weeks ago. So time has gone on, and Claude I'm going to be reading at Sam Houston, and we're going out for dinner after, and Claude is going to play music in the Southern Club. So I asked him very gently, I said, I'd like to, when I read, I'd like to dedicate a poem to Bo. It's not written about Bo directly. And he said, by all means. And so I want to read that here and end on that. Mostly to get over my nerves with Liza and reading it there. So I wrote this for my friend Alan Hoey. He was my first editor of a little publishing press called Tamarack Editions. And I was in Houston in 2010. And my wife called. Alan was 57, I think he was almost 57.